The year is 2012. I had just been recently introduced to the anime called Naruto by my older brother, and oh my goodness, watching Naruto, reading it, playing the Storm games for the first time as an 11-year-old kid was one of those things you wish you could erase from your memory so you could experience it for the first time again. But I needed more. I needed to satisfy my newfound love for anime. Crunchyroll. Sword Art Online. Players control their outfits over their bodies using a technology called nerve gear. On one day, players discover they cannot log out as the game creators holding them captive unless they reach the 100th floor. Sounds good. Now everyone here knows what Sword Art Online is, but just in case you don't, it's an anime where Kirito and a bunch of people get trapped in a virtual reality RPG video game, where they can only escape if they beat the entire game. Now before we go on, there's something I need to say that I think applies to not only me, but everyone at the time. Back in 2012, I was addicted to video games, and still am to a degree. As an 11-year-old kid, my day consisted of wake up at 10, go downstairs to the PS3, pop in Battlefield 3, play the entire day, and then rinse repeat. Shit was actually unhealthy, man. Like, even during school days, the instant the bell rang, I was like... So imagine my surprise when Sword Art Online is introduced and it takes my greatest love and combines it with one of my growing loves and basically puts it into one. To say that this captivated my 11-year-old brain is an understatement, and I know I'm not the only one. If you were there at the time, Sword Art Online was ridiculously popular. New Type magazine has a tradition where fans vote on the most popular male and female anime characters of the decade. In the 2010s, Kirito got first for male characters and Asuna second for female characters, only second to Fate Stay Night's Saber, which I gotta say, I kinda agree with, but I personally would've had a comment at number 1. The 2013 Tokyo Anime Awards also named SAO along with Kuroko's Basketball the best television series of the year in 2013. The same Tokyo Anime Awards also awarded Reiki Kawahara with the best original story of 2013. Kawahara and his anime SAO were the cool kids, and I'm sorry for emphasizing that so much, but we really need to put under a microscope how big this anime was at the time in 2012/2013. Now it wasn't quite JoJo's or Attack on Titan, but it was very, very popular. And for good reason. Sword Art Online was literally like watching a video game. The animation, the sweeping landscapes, the enemies, the concepts of dungeons, summoning crystals, parties, boss raids, potions. Now look, there were and are plenty of video game type anime out there, but none of them came close to immersing you as much as Sword Art Online did. Like bro, even the sound effects.
メインメニューの一番下に
Oh boy! Yeah! Right now, as I'm editing this, is giving me goosebumps. And there were also great scenes that took all these gamer elements and combined them perfectly. People around the world were instantly hooked. And as a kid who was borderline addicted to video games and just enjoying anime, watching and experiencing Sword Art Online was like watching Kakashi vs Obito for the first time. Like I couldn't believe my eyes. And keep in mind, this is only 1 year after the release of what some people consider to be the greatest game of all time, Dark Souls 1. And I can't help but think that this also built hype for Sword Art Online. But the anime didn't only attract people because of its video game aesthetic. It actually had a somewhat intriguing plot. You're telling me that if I die in this video game, I die in real life? I mean, who wouldn't watch that? And the first episode does a fantastic job of establishing the theme and tone of the story. There's also some pretty cool plot devices and clever strategies that Kawahara would use to keep the viewer intrigued and progress the plot. Like having the antagonist hide in plain sight was, I don't care what anyone says, I thought that was very good writing, very clever writing. Now I could go on and on about what made SAO great at the time, but I want to keep this short so my laptop doesn't explode while I'm editing this. So what the hell went wrong? Today, the earlier seasons, not so much the later seasons, but the earlier seasons today are almost seen as a laughingstock in the anime community. the insanely loved Sword Art Online sort of turned into the most hated anime of all time. Kawahara was no longer the cool kid like I said, and once the aesthetic of SAO rubbed off, people started to recognize his weaknesses as a writer. This might be surprising to some people, but the original ideas for SAO were actually created in 2001, over a decade before the release of the anime. Kawahara had written much of SAO for an entry in the Dengeki Novel Prize, which is a literary award that rewards the winner with up to 3 million yen. And not only that, but the winner in some sense earns the right to have their work illustrated and published. Now, Kawahara did not win, and it's because he didn't even submit his work, and this is because it exceeded the page limit by 120 pages. A couple years later, when he had advanced as a writer, he created a new novel that went by the name of Excel World, and in 2008, he did submit this, and he actually won, having it published a year later in 2009. And funny enough, the publishers went to him and basically said, "Hey, your ideas are pretty damn good. Do you have anything else that we could use?" And that's basically how Sword Art Online was created a couple years later in 2012. Now there's one big problem. SAO being published would be like taking my first big piece of writing, or yours, or anyone's, and plastering it on the big screen. Kawahara was not as good of a writer when he made SAO, at least in comparison to where he was when he made Excel World. In some sense, this was his first big piece of work, and once the creative video game aesthetic wore off, people really started to notice that. What the hell is this? Where is the exposition? Why is Kirito mentally broken in one episode and completely okay in another? Why are there random, humongous time skips that are just unexplained? And I'm not even gonna go over this weird ass scene here. Having to have had rewatched some of SAO for this video, a lot of the criticism is over the top, but a lot of it is actually pretty valid, especially in regards to Kirito. He was the definition of a cliche shonen protagonist with no interesting or distinctive qualities. And worst of all, he was still the strongest character with no training, effort, or anything. And in later seasons, Asuna, the once strong and lovable co-protagonist, was pretty much turned into Sakura, a useless damsel in distress. Sorry, Sakura fans. And trust me, this problem became heavily exacerbated by a lot of the just flat out weird writing when it came to the female characters in this series. Hell, Kawahara himself regrets a lot of the way he wrote the female characters, saying that they should not be treated like trophies. In short, Sword Art Online, for the most part, was not loved because of its writing. The reason SAO was great was because it took the love of anime and the love of video games and merged it into one. And this worked at the time because Kawahara was a serious gamer. But that's just the thing, he was a gamer, not really a writer. Watching the newer parts of SAO today, I can definitely say they're better in regards to how they're written. You can definitely notice Kawahara's development as a writer. But unfortunately, not many people are watching or have watched the newer parts of SAO. In spite of the improvements, there are plenty of other anime that have come out around the same time that have just generated more buzz. Devilman Crybaby, Goblin Slayer, Baki. Now, I think it's going too far to say that SAO was dead. It still has its dedicated cult-like fan base, that's undeniable, but it's nowhere near its 2012 release. And it's unfortunate because SAO's unique pitch, beautiful animation, and clever plot, it really could have gone down as one of the greatest anime of all time. But instead, it's just another addition to the long list of anime that could have been legendary. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider leaving a comment, liking the video, subscribing. I really appreciate it. It really helps the video out in terms of like the algorithm. I'll see you guys in the next one.